I'm Robert Martinez, state historian of New Mexico, and this is New Mexico History in 10 Minutes. I want to talk about Diego de Vargas and his first attempt to retake New Mexico, because this is where things get a little bit murky, especially the idea that it was a bloodless reconquest. 1692, Vargas and some soldiers. By the way, it's Vargas. Technically, it's not de Vargas. De Vargas is incorrect. You don't say de Oñate, you say Oñate. But in New Mexico, it's become part of the vernacular that we say de Vargas. But I say Vargas, okay? Vargas came up in 1692 with about 100 soldiers to retake New Mexico. And the first thing he knew that he had to do, because of reports he had, was take Santa Fe. The Pueblo people had fortified themselves in there, and they weren't really all that keen on giving up the area to the Spanish. Also, they had been feeling pressures from Apache warriors. So when Vargas arrived, they were actually suspicious of him. They thought, well, these are Apache warriors trying to trick us, dressed as Spaniards, trying to get into the Villa de Santa Fe, the town of Santa Fe. But what happens, the story goes, is that Vargas knocked on the gates, the fortified doors of Santa Fe, and said, I'm Diego de Vargas. I'm a representative of His Majesty, the King of Spain, and I am a Christian. Soy cristiano. Well, the Pueblo people were going to have none of that. They said, no, you're not. You are an enemy warrior. You're dressed as a Christian, and you're trying to trick us. So the story is that Vargas told them, I will prove I am who I am by singing an alabado to Nuestra Señora, Our Lady. And in doing so, the Pueblos let him in. He earned their trust. So Vargas goes into Santa Fe and talks to the Pueblo warriors and leaders about the possibility of entering into a truce, a union, because the Pueblo people are now realizing having Spanish weapons, Spanish horses, Spanish soldiers would be a real plus against enemy native groups that are starting to encroach on their lands and their communities. So that is what happens. The Pueblos agree to have a Spanish presence in New Mexico. Well, Vargas then goes south to go get his colonists. We're not sure what happened. It seems like there might have been a misunderstanding, because it looks like the Pueblos had agreed to maybe work with trade or having a military presence there. But Vargas goes south, and what happens is in Mexico City, a priest named Farfan Godos, he recruits a bunch of Spanish families to come to New Mexico. This is where we get names like Valdez, Atencio, Mascareñas, Quintana, Aragon. These are the Españoles Mexicanos who are recruited. They're recruited in Mexico City. You have to be married. It's interesting when you go back and look in the marriage records, the 6 months or so before this group of colonists head north, you see all these people marrying each other, these families, they're coming up, and you have to be married. That's encouraged. So these are the families that come up. And Vargas then, the following year in 1693, takes these colonists along with those old New Mexico families that were stubborn and dedicated and loyal. He brings them north to recolonize New Mexico. Well, things don't go as planned. They arrive at Santa Fe during the cold of winter, and it turns out the Pueblos either changed their mind or said, hold on, we didn't mean we wanted a bunch of you coming to live here. Whatever happens, it's going to be bad, okay? Because they are not letting the colonists or Vargas and his soldiers in. and it's starting to get really cold. Finally, it's decided that the bloodless reconquest of the previous year, it's not going to last. Vargas and soldiers take Santa Fe by force of arms. The Pueblos fight valiantly. The Spanish fight valiantly. And finally, the Spanish are able to overtake Santa Fe. They also cut off the water supply, just like the Pueblos did to the Spanish 13 years earlier. Well, one of the things that happens at the Casas Reales is that some of the native Pueblo warriors are brought into the plaza right there near the Casas Reales, what we call the Palace of the Governors, and 70 of them were executed. So this was a bloody reconquest. These colonists are brought in 1693. They reestablished themselves in New Mexico. This means a return of Spanish government, Governor Diego de Vargas. It means a return of Spanish economic systems, although it's going to be a little bit different. I've talked about the encomienda system that was in place in New Mexico before the Pueblo Revolt, but that was supposed to return, but it wasn't meant to be. There was no more encomienda here. And those New Mexicans that came back, they were descendants of those folks who were given titles of Hidalgo, petty nobility. They were able to keep that, but the new colonists, no, they were given financial assistance, though, to start new lives in New Mexico. So next time we're going to talk about why would you leave the comforts of Mexico City to come to the wild frontier of New Mexico? And then we'll learn of more colonists, a different group, that come up in 1695 from Zacatecas, Mexico. Hasta pronto. See you next time.